Ladies and gentlemen, up until now you've seen the creature perform the simple mechanics of motor activity, but for what you are about to see next, we must enter quietly into the realm of genius. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, Damen und Herren, from what was once an inarticulate mass of lifeless tissues, may I now present a cultured, sophisticated man about town. Hit it!
The Sketch-O-Matic Show. Sketch-O-Matic.
Sketchy. Yeah. Woo. Woo. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Yeah. Woo.
Sketch-O-Matic.
I'm losing my mind currently. Back again.
Loud noises!
Yes. Here we are.
Yeah.
Together, you and I.
Wow.
For this next episode of the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast.
Sketch-O-Matic.
Episode
11.
Well into the double digits now.
Word.
And I'm excited to have this special guest this week. This man is a good friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, who I've known for many years. We've produced many mixes together in our days working for Power 106 back in 2007 and eventually teaming up as a production DJ duo to produce jump-off mixes, which essentially is a mega mix. For those that aren't DJs, I'll explain it briefly. It's like a mega mix where there's always at least 2 or 3 records almost playing at all times, all mixed together seamlessly, pre-produced in like Pro Tools, Ableton, what have you. So it can sound like there's 4 or 5 turntables playing all at the same time. Now, this episode is geared more for the DJ, meaning DJs that DJ on turntables, that mix, that cut, that scratch, that DJ events, clubs, parties, weddings, etc. All those guys that listen to my podcast that are on turntables, I thank you for listening. And I would like to properly take a moment here to thank you, the folks that have DM'd me recently, have texted me, messaged me, emailed me about the podcast and how they are enjoying it. And I do really, really appreciate that. Special shout out to my boy Daniel Matthews, a.k.a. DB, who really has my back, always shows a lot of support, and has been with the podcast since day one. And I appreciate you, bros. Homies since high school, homies for life, and that's how it goes down.
Thank you!
I'm not going to name every single person. Obviously, I want to get into the podcast, but I do appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to even listen to the podcast, let alone to give me feedback and message me about it. It does really touch me in my heart, and it means a lot, and it gives me the energy and the motivation to keep going. Because I'll tell you, it's not easy putting together these podcasts every week, but when I'm committed to something, I stay true to it. I try to make it better each and every time. As I evolve, you evolve with me.
Thank you!
This is episode 11. This special guest is a very dear friend of mine, like I said, and we produced so many mixes together back in the day. And I'm going to play a couple of clips of these mixes that we've produced because they're so good. It's been so long that I've actually heard them myself, so I would like to present them to you now. Just a couple of little snippets of some of our jump-off mixes from back in the day. We put together our first jump-off mix in 2008, and it started off like this.
Please don't stop the music, makes the people come together. Please don't stop the music, makes the people come together. Please don't stop the music, makes the boys wanna see.
Good shit right there. Woo! Super fire. Yes. And how about this?
DJ Sketch. Oh,
Matic. Two of us. DJ Fuze. Two of us. Jump Off Mix. Volume 3. Two of us.
And what about your boy Sketch-O-Matic on the auto-tune?
I told you, boy, it's a jump off, boy. DJ Sketch-O-Matic and DJ Fuze. No, you can't refuse. All the other DJs don't matter. We ain't trying to take it's a jump off mix, and we work at 106. Put all party, bitch, and we in the mix with the Fuentes, and that's it.
Yeesh. I swear to you, I've gotten better at auto-tune. It's been a while. Well, let's check this one out. This one's good, too.
2009.
Make some noise.
It's the jump off mix. 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 It's the jump off. Powerhouse jump off 2009. It's the jump off. Powerhouse jump off 2009. Jump off.
Such great memories producing those jump off mixes with my dude. And I'll tell you, the million man hours of editing and producing and scratching and retakes, I'll tell you, we really put our heart and souls into each and every one of those mixes and every single edit that took place. It took a lot. We would start months in advance, or at least a month in advance, just to make a 30-minute mix. I mean, that's real dedication. I miss those days. I don't want to waste any more time. There's so much to cover in this episode. We review his history. We check out what got him into DJing. We learn about what it took for him to get to where he's at and some of the letdowns along the way, but they ultimately led to this podcast right now. I'm so excited to have this special guest this week. To my DJs, this one's for you. Episode
11.
Let's dive in. Oh my God.
Oh my God. Special guest from REAL92-3's The Cruz Show, DJ Fuze.
That's right. You heard the TikTok lady. This man, this gentleman, my guest today on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast is history. A lot of history with this guy. We've produced many a jump-off mixes together in our youth. And he is now the official DJ on the afternoon drive show, the Cruz Show on REAL92-3 FM. Please welcome DJ Fuze.
Yeah, what up, Sketch?
How are you?
I'm great, brother.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. I've never interviewed you before, Fuze.
No.
I mean, we've
had many conversations.
You've seen me wasted many a night.
True. I've been wasted with you too.
This is true.
Know?
This is true. But, you know, this is when we were in our youth. I'm sober Sally now. Well, you know, I still smoke. But the point is, we've never sat down and we've never done a full-on, like, just a sit-down convo. Like, how many jump-off mixes did we produce back in the day?
I think we did at least 10.
10, right?
Yeah.
One each year that we were working together. And I want to just touch on some interesting points in your life. Okay. From your arrival to when we were working across the street together and all the way to you making the move to REAL92-3.
Okay.
So I want to talk about your rise just to getting into radio in general.
Okay.
Before we get to Real and Cruz and all that stuff, I want to know, how in the hell did you get into DJing in the first place? I don't think I've ever asked you this. It seems like when I met you, you were just born a DJ. You came out of the womb with headphones and a computer, laptop. Well, laptops weren't around, but you had vinyl. Yeah. And you know what I mean? And suddenly, like, you are, for those of you who don't know, before you get into this question, Fuze, about your rise into DJing and what got you there, Fuze, let me give you a quick background. Fuze is a quiet gentleman. You don't really hear him talk much other than when he's on the air with Cruz and little breaks here and there. Yeah. But he is a quiet giant in the hip hop DJing realm. I mean, in all of DJing, not just hip hop, but he is a quiet giant. You don't hear him talk much with his vocals, but his hands will slap the shit out of you.
True.
And not literally, but figuratively on the turntables.
I'm very quiet, but when it comes to the turntables and the mixing, I'm very aggressive.
You're like a ninja with a sword.
Yeah.
And it just cuts through. The way you cut and you mix live on air, your DJing scratching skills is...
On me for some reason.
A lot of people might be surprised when they hear me like DJ because they're like, "What? You're so like quiet, to yourself."
Yeah.
But then we hear you mixing and it's very aggressive,
Yeah, you're like I feel like you're an MVP player when it comes like those baseball players. Like when you call out the certain players that either a pitcher that's going to pitch like a no hitter, right, or you're going to bring in the guy who's going to hit a home run no matter what.
Yeah.
And you're like both those guys. You don't hear them talk much, but when they come out, you're like, uh-oh, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
So DJ Fuze, it's such a pleasure to have you on the
brother, thank
podcast,
you for having me.
man. And thank you for taking the time to wake up early and come
it's
down
all
here.
good. We got our coffee. We're good to go.
We got a cafecito.
Yeah.
I got my Starbucks, and you have the one what?
My Whole Foods.
Oh shit. And it's a Saturday morning. For those of you who don't know, we woke up early, and I wanted to ask you, Fuze, before we even get into the whole history thing, I want to just go over what do you do on the weekend? Why did you want to meet up this time? I was under the impression you had a DJ on the air.
Yeah, well, we are on the air later on, 2 to 7 p.m. But what did I have? I had a gig last night. I actually got home kind of late.
Yeah,
from
I saw you. Yeah.
But no, I had to meet up with a friend. I was gonna let him borrow a speaker for a wedding he's doing. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just hit up Sketch and see if we can meet up early, Look,
you're such a good guy, man. You're loaning a speaker to a friend. First of all, how Mexican and how like you're such a loyal friend, and the whole DJing, loaning a speaker to the homie to go DJ a wedding.
Exactly.
Is he Latino too?
He is.
Yeah, I see. I knew.
He is.
It's such a Mexican thing. I love that about you,
Yeah.
man. And you, by the way, my mom really had such an affinity for you. She would ask about you a lot, even after the days working across the street were over, and we kind of went our separate ways. Life happened, but my mom would every now and again she'd go, "How is art?"
Oh wow,
yeah, and she just
I'll never forget like. There was like 2 nights that I spent the night at your house because we're working on mixes.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget your mom was like the nicest person ever, like the nicest host,
Yeah, no, she loved you, man. She was, and she didn't like everybody, but she was always nice to everybody, but she was
nice,
very
bro.
like, she was like, man, Art's a good guy. And she always referred to you by your real name. I hope that's okay. We say,
No,
Art.
of course, bro. Yeah.
If not, I'm gonna have to bleep it.
No, it's all good. Let's keep it real.
So let's keep it real. Let's go deep let's take a quick dive into Fuze history. Now, you got into DJing how old?
I was 15 years old. I got into it like not by like a lot of dudes like had an uncle that inspired them or like helped them like come up. I didn't really have that. What I had was I was really into Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Incubus, those type of bands.
Right.
And they all had a DJ on stage.
Oh yeah.
So like the scratching like really stood out to me when I was watching the music video. So when I turned 15, I asked my mom like, can I get a turntable? Because I just want to scratch, I'm not trying to DJ.
Right.
So she bought me a turntable. We went to a store down the street. She got me the cheapest turntable they had.
What kind was it? Do you remember?
It was a Newmark,
Oh yeah.
a belt drive. It wasn't even like
It wasn't the direct drive, right?
No. Yeah, it was a belt drive. Like so.
I had one of those too. I got mine from a recycler my mom got.
Really?
My mom, there was no eBay, there was no internet.
Yeah.
And just to touch on that, my mom, when I was 12 years old, I remember I was like, I want a DJ. And she was like, okay, let's go get the recycler and look for turntables. And I'm like, what's the recycler? And she flipped right to the page of where people had stereo equipment or, like musical. And we drove out to somewhere in North Hollywood and some guy, and it was a shitty turntable. It was like $100, and but it did the job. You got a Newmark from what store? Where was it?
It was called Mars Music in Santa Ana.
Okay.
It was like a wannabe guitar center,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I go in there, and she's obviously not going to pay $500 for Techniques. So she bought me the cheapest one, and then the guy's like, "Oh, are you going to get a mixer?" And I'm like, well, do I need one?
Yeah.
And he's like, he gives me that look like,
if you want to scratch.
like, if you want to scratch, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, then she bought me the $40 mixer. It was a Stanton, I believe. Cheapest of the cheap, you know?
Really?
And
There was a $40 mixer?
Yeah, $40
I remember
mixer, bro.
Realistic. I bought a Realistic mixer from Radio Shack. Do you
wow.
remember those?
Yeah, I never had one, but I remember them.
I don't even know if it had a fader. Like the fade, it just had pots.
Yeah.
Like this mixing board here, but only
No crossfader?
yeah, it only had like maybe 2 or 4, but I don't think it had a cross. I'm not sure. It might have, but it was a janky one. It wasn't like what is now. But yes, please continue. So you got a $40. So overall, you spent how much on the equipment?
She spent like $140 on everything.
Damn, under $200. Go ahead and see. That's a Mexican mom just knowing how to make it work.
Exactly. And then I took it to my bedroom and I like come home from high school and then just instead of working on homework, I would just practice, you know?
At 15, you were
at 15, I was just practicing, and then nobody knew about it. I didn't tell my friends, like, you know, I'm like, it's just a side hobby. Like,
what are you, like 9th grade?
10th grade.
10th
I was in
grade.
10th grade, yeah.
And so you had never DJ'd before. Obviously, you had never touched a turn. You'd seen DJs.
I have seen
like,
them
in the
on
music
like
videos.
TV. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
But you didn't have any.
I had never been to a concert. I had never seen it in person.
But what about like a family member?
Yeah, I did have 2 cousins that would do like the family like quinceañeras, but they played on CD players. You know, so they never really got down with scratching or anything like that. So when I would see them, it was always interesting, but it wasn't like whoa, like what are they doing?
Right.
They're not really scratching or anything.
Yeah,
so
you were
it never really caught my attention
this
like that.
is bullshit. You're calling bullshit
No,
on it.
no, it was cool. I was still like kind of like peeping to see what they were doing, but
But were they mixing? Like putting
it was
blending?
like the CD player, so they would just kind of spin this little jog wheel, but it wasn't the same. You know?
It's not. It's like playing a playlist sort of, but you're doing it live.
Exactly.
So I get it. I've seen that before. So you get the turntables. You're practicing every day after school. You don't tell anybody.
I don't tell anybody. I keep it to myself. Like I think 1 or 2 of my friends know that, like the ones that would come over the most,
right?
And one of my cousins, but. It was just something I did for fun, like after school, like a little hobby. You know, kids went and played football, basketball. I went in my room and tried to scratch, you know?
And would you just mix in your headphones or would you mix on
No, I had a
speakers?
stereo connected to my stereo and then like...
And you only had 1 turntable?
I only had 1 turntable, but eventually like I kind of outgrew that and I'm like, all right, like I want to play something on the left channel.
Right.
So I connected my PlayStation like to the other like channel.
Wow.
So I was like playing, like hitting play on the PS2 or whatever.
Right.
And then I would like scratch on the other side with my
So
turntable.
you'd use the PS2 as just like a turntable to play a track.
Yeah.
And then you'd use the right, and you're right-handed when you scratch so, right?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
ambidextrous? Are you able to use
I'm
both
like,
hands?
I pretty much like right. I can do it.
I'm a righty too.
Yeah.
What's crazy is I'm left-handed writing, like when I write with a pen or pencil or sign something, I'm left-handed. But everything else falls under the right hand. If I play sports, if I throw, basketball, baseball, swing a base, it's all right-handed. But when it comes to, I'm left-handed, and it's only because I broke my right arm when I was a kid, when I was learning how to write and all that, and I had to start
like,
writing with my left. And I remember my grandmother told me, because I was at one point ambidextrous, I was able to write with both hands, my ABCs, not I was like writing essays. But, I remember my grandmother vividly telling me, mijo, you have to choose a hand. You can't write with both hands.
Yeah.
People are going to think you're weird or something like that. So I went with the left. She was like, why don't you use the left? Nobody really uses the left. And since then it was that.
Wow.
But you're right-handed.
Yeah.
Right? When you write, you're right-handed, right?
Yeah.
And then, okay, so now PS2, you got the turntable. You outgrow. How long are you doing this for?
I want to say a few months.
Okay.
A few months of just like using 1 turntable and then like incorporating the PS2 after that. And then later on, I'm like, you know what? Like, I need to save up my own money and buy another turntable. So I went and bought another belt drive turntable.
How? Were you working?
At the time, like I would work on the weekends with my dad. He does construction. So on the weekends, he'd pay me like $40 like to go on Saturdays with him or whatever. So I would just like save up.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that's what I ended up doing. I just bought so I eventually got a pair of turntables and started working on that. And then I outgrew them. Like I really got into it. I discovered like the mix show DJs on the radio, like on 100.3 and on power, and I'm like, I just like really got into it. I'm like, damn, these dudes are like putting in work on the turntables, like live on air,
Who was like the DJ on power that you heard that was the one, like you were like, was it E-Man? Who was it?
I mean, E-Man was dope. E-Man was definitely one of the ones I looked up to, but Koki was the one that
yes.
Koki. Yeah, he was the one that like to this day, like
Yeah, he's another
I kind
one.
of forget about him, because he's not really in the game anymore.
Right.
I don't even know where he's at right now. But yeah, to this day, like if I get asked like who's your like inspiration or like your favorite DJ, I gotta say Koki, man. Like
Yeah, man.
like when I started, I wanted to sound like him. You know what I mean?
He is dope, man. He's one of
super
the
dope.
other quiet giants.
Oh,
You never would suspect that he will rip you in half when it comes to DJing.
Such a beast with it.
Yeah,
like his cuts, like his creativity, like
Yeah.
man.
I hear you, man. Now that brings me to the next question is getting inspired by Koki. And then getting you're saving up, we're working with Pops on the weekends, you're getting paid $40-$50 under the table. How long does it take you to save up to buy your first Technique 1200?
I can't remember exactly how long it took me, but it was probably like a month or so.
Wow, that's not bad, actually.
Probably like a month.
Did mom and dad help out at like chip in the extra?
No, because I still ended up buying like the cheapest one, you know? Because I wanted to just I bought it new, but I wanted it to match like what my mom bought me. $100, you know? So it wasn't like too crazy expensive.
Oh, I see. So you didn't go for the Technique 1200. You went with the next belt drive.
Not yet. So then I want to say like a year later, I outgrew those belt drive ones and I bought some direct drive ones, but they weren't Techniques yet.
Right.
They were still like, what were they? They were like Geminis, I want to say, or Stanton.
I remember those.
Yeah, they were like some black. Actually, no. Yeah, they were like some black ones, I think.
They look cool. The thing is, I remember those early Newmarks and the early Gemini turntables that were trying to mimic the Techniques.
Yeah.
They had the model down. It looked good. It just didn't.
It didn't feel the same.
Function
No,
right.
it didn't feel the
It's not
same.
the same feel.
So I had those for like a year. I outgrew them. And then, I went to through 2 or 3 pairs of turntables before I actually got Techniques.
Damn.
And they were so expensive. They were like $500 each, $400 or $500. And I couldn't afford them, because I was still just kind of working on the weekends with my dad. So I had to ask my older sister, like, can you buy me these turntables? Like, I'll pay you back. So she put them on her credit card. And
nice.
We went to Sam Ash and she got me my first pair of Techniques, and this was 2003.
How excited were you?
I was
to get
so excited,
those?
bro,
And you got
'cause
both of them at the same
I
time?
got both of them at the same time.
At the same damn time.
Yeah, bro. It was crazy. But like the funny thing is that I still wasn't working like full time like that. I was still a kid, So
And you're what, like 17 now?
yeah, I was like 17.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. She ended up not making the payments on the card, on the credit card, because I wasn't really working. I wasn't giving her the money to make the payments. So I think it messed up her credit.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So to this day, I owe my sister big time.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
She took a hit on her credit for your DJing future, man.
I'll never forget that.
Did you ever pay her off for it? Eventually you had to, right? Or no?
No, I never did. But I mean, that's my sister.
I mean, that's amazing.
That's my sister, though. I hold her down in other ways.
Of course. No,
Yeah.
I mean, my sisters have loaned me plenty of money, and I still haven't paid a lot of it back. I try to pay it back in other ways, like getting them tickets to Disneyland.
Exactly.
You know what
Stuff
I mean?
like that, yeah.
Stuff like that. That's just another Mexican thing, though, right there. You know what I mean? I love it. And does she hold it over you? Does she go, you remember that?
Oh, no. Like, she's not the type.
Yeah,
to,
no, I hear you.
Like, she would never do that, but I'll never forget that, I'll never, ever forget that. My sister got me I still have them to this day. It's the ones that I use in my room every day,
Those are the ones in the videos?
Yeah.
Those are the ones your sister got you?
Yep.
Wow.
The same ones. They're like, what?
They're not the newest techniques then.
No.
They're not the MK20s now, whatever they're up to.
They're like what are they? The 1210 M3Ds.
Oh,
yeah,
man,
yeah.
that's so dope, man. Yeah, I like your setup at home, man. Let's oh man, there's so much I want to cover with you, man, and I don't want to hold you for too long. I know you have things to do and speakers to lend. But okay. And shout out to, what's your sister's name? Can we shout her out?
Rocio.
Rocio?
Yeah.
Rocio. I don't want to say your full name, but let's say Rocio Fuze. That's her name, right? Rocio Fuze, man. Shout out to Rocio Fuze.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's ever gotten love before for basically being the provider, not provider, but the investor. She invested in your DJ career and took a hit on her credit.
Yeah.
God bless her.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I just remembered?
Please.
Randomly.
Random share.
She's actually an assistant principal at a middle school. So coming up later this month, I'm going to DJ one of her fall festivals for the students.
Oh my God.
So that's kind of how I'm
There
paying
it is.
back. You know what I mean?
Full circle.
I'm not charging her. I'm doing it out of love.
Yeah. And you're using the turntable she bought you.
I'm here's towards that, whatever money I still owe you,
I gather they'll have turntables set up for you though, because you're a superstar DJ.
No, they probably won't.
Oh, you have to take your own equipment?
I'll bring my controller or something,
Nice.
It's all good.
Yeah. It's all good. You'll be
Mexican,
fine.
bro.
Yeah, it's all good. You'll be fine.
It's all good.
Okay, so now you're DJing at a middle school.
Yeah, it's a middle school.
That's cool. And you're doing what, lunch hour for the kids?
I think it's like an evening thing on a Friday. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like a little event.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I remember Big Boy used to come to Culver Middle and Culver High School and during the lunch hour
Yeah, I
to
remember
DJ
you
like
told
on
me
a
that story,
Friday.
yeah.
And I remember I remember one year, I took the day off from school. I was going to Culver and I took the day off to DJ that an event that Big Boy was going to show up at. And by this point, I think he was already on Power. Obviously, yeah, he was on Power. But he was going to do an appearance. And the dean told me it was cool to take the day off to DJ. Not the whole day, but just the morning until the afternoon to bring the equipment, set up for Big. But I'll never forget when Big got there. He saw me and he sees me sitting. He's like, "Hey, what's up, Chris?" You know, obviously I wasn't sketch yet. Or maybe I was. I don't know. But he called me Chris. And he's all, "Chris, did you take the day off to bring the equipment here?" And I'm all, "Yeah." And he's all, no. He didn't get mad, but he was like disappointed. He's like, "Don't ever take your education off to provide for this kind of thing, Chris.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever do that. That's irresponsible."
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay. Like, I thought I was doing good. And he was like, "You are, but I'm disappointed that you're not worried. You know, you're not taking your education as seriously as you're taking this little stupid 20-minute DJ break." You know, and I was like, you're right. You know, I didn't really listen though.
I mean, you were doing like something that you really loved, and eventually,
now we're here.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But it was just to, in essence, it was to show how much of a big brother he's always been. Like he's always, he has to give that tough love. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just that. I mean, there's been many a times that he showed that tough love, but it's all love. It's just love. And I know he doesn't show that to everybody. And I probably as a kid, I was like, he doesn't appreciate what I'm doing. But now I look back and I'm like, damn, he was right. I probably should have just brought the equipment at some other time. But it's just, I just love that I had that in my life. Was your sister ever kind of like controlling on you like that? She's your older sister, correct?
She's my older sister.
Yeah. Are you the baby of the fam?
No, I'm in the middle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle like a crossfader.
Yeah, exactly.
So was your family supportive getting into DJing, like wanting to buy the equipment?
I mean, they were like, they didn't really they weren't against it, but they were like kind of like whatever about it. They were like, he's doing it. Cool.
Right.
Like they didn't really say much about it,
My question is, did they want you to get into, like, were they pushing for your education to go towards something else? Did they want you to be like, for example, like Kristen Lamone from Alt 98.7? I interviewed her on the podcast and she was originally going to get into medicine. She would have been Dr. Lamone.
Wow.
Right. And her family, obviously she's a Latina female. Her family was like, you should always have something to fall back on, but they were supportive at the same time. Was your family pushing you to do something more in the regular world of work?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to Cal State Fullerton.
Oh, really?
I was going to Cal State. I had grants. I had good grades in high school. So I was like, not like a full scholarship or anything like that. But then I just started getting more like into DJing. You know what I mean?
What was your major?
I never decided, but I think I was going to go through like with business administration or something like that.
Interesting. I can see you in that. If in an alternate universe, I could see Fuze not DJing, but being in some sort of business administrative office, because you have that look. You know what I mean? You look like you could work. You could look like you could be an account executive here at iHeart. You know what I mean? Like if you just throw on a suit and tie, you have that appeal to you. And plus, you're quiet and everybody loves you. You're a sweet guy. I have never met anybody that was like, oh man, fuck DJ Fuze. Never.
Really?
Like it's never happened. People will say, man, fuck sketch. And granted, I can be a total douchebag. But I just feel like there isn't a mean bone in your body, Fuze.
DJ Fuze.
Do you feel that way? Do you get upset?
You know what? Like, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I think what it is at work or whenever like I went to school, like I just always kind of kept it like professional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, if people get to know me, like they'll get to see like, okay, like Fuze can talk some shit. You know what I mean? Like,
see, I've never heard you talk shit either, and I've known you for so long.
You probably just forgot, bro.
I probably did.
You probably forgot.
Or I was talking
it comes
more
in like
shit.
little like sprinkles here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I mean shit. Like
do you curse?
Hell yeah.
That's not cursing.
Fuck yeah.
Like, do you get road rage when you're driving?
I actually had some road rage like 2 months ago.
2 months ago? I thought you were going to say like when you were on your
Like
way.
2 hours ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. 2 months ago, Fuze, you're a fucking saint.
Yeah.
Dude.
Nah, I mean, I've had my fair share
Really?
of
Now,
road rage.
give us an example of you getting frustrated. What makes you frustrated? And not to the point where you're screaming and yelling, but just more of like, what are some things that aggravate you that normally most people wouldn't even know?
Well, while driving, I'm sure you're not even asking just about driving, but when I'm driving, I hate people that like go into my lane in front of me and don't put their turn signal.
What about when they don't give you the courtesy wave when you let them in? Do you get
No,
that?
that's fine.
You
Like,
don't care about that?
No, I don't care about that.
You want the signal.
It's like, bro, like,
Yeah.
it just like really pisses me off. It's like, put your signal, like,
That's
let
what
me
it's
know
made
what you're
for.
doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, I don't know. Like, I feel like people that don't put their signal on, like, they're just like, fuck you. Like, I don't give a fuck about the world or anybody. Like, I'm just doing whatever the fuck I want to do.
It's my world you're living in.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I know. That's just why I don't have a car anymore, Fuse.
There you
I
go.
sold my car. I couldn't afford the extra $1,000 a month finance. It was literally an extra $1,000. It's like the $700 for the car payment. Another,
for gas.
For gas. Luckily, I live across the street from the station and I work from home now. But gas went up. Insurance, car washes. Maintenance. It's a lot of money for a car. I don't really go anywhere. I don't go anywhere. I drive to Ross. You know what I mean?
To Ross.
I drive to Ross to buy some joggers on sale and drive home, and I feel like I've accomplished something. And I'm talking about Ross in Burbank. It's less than 2 miles from my house. It's ridiculous.
Could run over there, bro.
All of Burbank is like a big movie set.
Yeah.
And you could literally get across the entire city in less than an hour on foot.
Yeah.
And it's like,
You don't need a car, yeah.
I don't, and I just got rid of it. I have a bike now, and I
go.
just ride my bike, and I'm trying to, do a little green for the world, try to keep it green.
You're not missing much, you know what I mean?
Not, and the gas prices, people driving, they piss. Brings me back to the whole getting pissed off. People driving in LA. I just feel like
there's just too many cars on the road. It's it's easy to get frustrated.
And it's like when LA was originally built back in like the 20s and 30s and 40s. It wasn't estimated that 3 million people would be shoveling through one overpass in 1 hour. Yeah. It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I just chose, for now, no car. I live across the street from work. You live in what? You live like a few miles from me. You live in Glendale?
Monrovia.
That's where Tony lives.
Yeah.
But how do you? So let's get back to this. The driving things. I almost feel like I want to play that Offspring song.
Yeah.
When I'm not going, stay in your lane.
When I go driving, I stay in my lane. We're getting cut off. It makes me insane.
Anyways, getting back to the DJing and the rise to eventually working your way up onto Power.
Yeah.
Where we met each other.
Yeah.
You were DJing. You were working. Did you ever work a regular job? Like while you were in school, you said, right?
You mean before like radio and stuff?
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah.
What were you doing?
So back to like where I was helping my dad with construction. When I think I was like 17, almost 18. They offered me a job, like working for they do construction.
Right. For your pops.
They offered me a job, like doing estimates and getting quotes for
like a full-time gig.
Yeah. So I was making a cool little salary. I was like,
right.
back in the day, I was making like $600 a week, not a month, a week. And I was like, okay, like I'm still a kid. Like that was like good money for me. I was still living with my parents.
Yeah.
Like they passed down like the note card, like for me to use. So like, I wasn't really like paying many bills, So I was like, all right, like all this money, like I'm going to spend it on records, buying records every weekend or like clothes.
The good old days, bro.
Yeah, the good old days,
Yeah, man.
So that's what I was doing. That was my first job,
And then but the DJing progresses. You're getting more and more. You're getting doubles of every record. You're buying records every weekend. Every week you're getting some new sneakers and whatever. But when is it that the light goes off where you're like, I got to get on the radio?
So in 2006, in May of 2006, I was listening to the radio. We were at work, right? I used to work with my sisters and my cousins. It was like a family business.
This is the construction spot.
Yeah, I was in the office, and we always had the radio on, and it was always like on Power. And I remember like Big Boy announcing like, oh, so we're like launching a new contest for anybody that's ever wanted a DJ on the radio. And I was like, oh, like that's me, Yeah. So then he called it, what was it called? Like, he's like, it's like American Idol, but we're going to call it Power Mixer Idol.
Oh, I remember that, dude. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I know this story now.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all coming back to me, but please reiterate. Continue.
So yeah, he pretty much said like, if you've ever wanted a DJ on the radio, here's your chance. Send in a 10-minute mix, and they give like the address or whatever, and send it in before this date. And we're going to do like a battle, like finalist and the whole nine,
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I got to do it. But I like literally waited till the last day to make my mix and like send it through FedEx overnight. But
That's
they got
typical
it.
Mexican style. Procrastinated
exactly.
until the last minute.
Last minute,
oh,
bro.
Oh my God.
But eventually, like, they started playing like a lot of the mixes on air. Like Big Boy would like be like, yo, E-Man, play some of the mixes that like that DJ submitted.
Right.
And they would go in on these mixes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they would clown on the mixes. And I'm like, oh, great. Here we go. Like one of these days they're going to like put DJ Fuze from Santa Ana and they're going to just count on me. But no, they did that for like a good month and a half.
Did they play yours eventually on the air?
So eventually they did, but like for a good month and a half, they were just clowning on like the bad DJs, the ones they like didn't like.
Which is like American Idol. It's like the first stage where you're like, oh my God, it's hilarious, it's fun.
Yeah.
Some of them really bring you to tears. They move you, but in the radio realm, it's all about clowning the worst of the worst, right?
Yeah.
And then they get to yours, and what happens?
So this one day, Big Boy's like, you know what? Enough of the clowning, enough of the like making fun of the DJs. Like, we narrowed it down to like 6 finalists. And he's like, all right, the first finalist, DJ Fuze from Santa Ana. And I'm at work.
You were the first runner-up?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I'm at work. My cousins are like, what? They're like, Art, is that you? I'm like, yeah, that's sweet. I'm like, what? Like, it was like a crazy moment,
How surreal was that?
It was crazy.
And
bro.
It was Big saying it.
It was Big Boy saying it. Big Boy and E-Man,
It was wild.
Yeah, so that was that. And then they announced the other finalists. And then the next day I get a call from E-Man and he's like, hey, congratulations, Fuze. So next step is you got to come to the radio station and mix for 5 minutes during my morning slot. I'm like, oh, wow. So then like I went in and him and Felly and Mr. Chalk were the judges.
Mr. Chalk.
Yeah, so I did my 5-minute set and they judged me on a scale from 1 to 10. So I think I got a 27 out of 30.
Wait, you said they judge you on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, so each one on the scale of 1 to 10. So they added up the 3 different scores.
I see.
So they each gave me a 9.
Oh, I see. I see
9.
each one of them.
Yeah,
the judges combined. I see. Okay,
exactly.
okay, I got it.
So then like the other DJs went and I would listen every day. I'm like, oh, let's see what they get. Let's see what they get. And they all got like 21, 22. I'm like, oh, damn, I ended up getting like the highest score.
Mm-hmm.
So then I get another call from E-Man and he's like, all right, now you're going to be part of the finals. And we're going to do the live broadcast, like the DJ battle, live from Six Flags Magic Mountain.
I remember this.
With listeners there, like in front of you. I'm like, oh, wow.
And you've DJ'd in front of people before, obviously. You've done parties.
like
right? But
like,
mostly in your bedroom.
Family quinceañeras and stuff like that. Like nothing crazy.
But when you really went ham on the practicing and the trickery of DJing and cutting and stuff, most of it was in the bedroom, right?
Pretty much,
So
I was doing like a few bars at the time, nothing crazy, but...
Let me ask you, let's just really quickly go back and explore you coming and doing the E-Man live slot. How long did you have to do that for?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, which is an eternity in radio world. Although you're live
it felt
on
like
air.
forever.
And you had never been on the radio before.
Never.
This is crazy. So you like catapulted almost Eminem style to the forefront of DJing. And you're how old at this point?
How old was I? 2006. Like 20, 21.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so you had
20,
you're officially, you're about to be 21, grown adult, buying booze legally. But you never, it's fascinating. I love these stories of people who've never been on the radio.
Yeah.
They had really no interest other than maybe working in radio, but to get on the radio and you getting into E-Man slot during the Mickey Ficky mix back then.
Yep.
And it's like prime. Were you nervous going in?
I was so nervous.
Was your hands sweaty? Describe what you were feeling.
I can't remember. I just remember Jeff G was working with Big Boy at the time, and I remember he came into they had like a little green room, and he's like, "Hey, you good? Everything good, Fuze?" And I'm like, "Hey, dude, I really need to use the restroom." He's like, "Oh, you good?" And I guess he sensed that I was like really stressed out. I'm like, "I just really gotta go." So he's like, "All right, well, go do your thing," you know. And I think they even made fun of me like on air. They're like, "You good? Like you gotta like really?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm so nervous. Like I just gotta use the restroom. Like my stomach's turning.
You
like
bubble guts.
Yeah.
Bubble guts.
Oh yeah,
man.
But I mean, other than that, like once I went and handled my business, like, you know, once I like plugged in and started scratching, everything was just kind of falling into place, and I did my set, you know?
It's even crazy, like where that nervous, that anxiousness really just takes over, the bubble guts, all that stuff. And then once that first record plays and the music and it's pumping through your headphones and that first scratch cut is made, did the nervousness subside? And you're like, I'm in it. I know what I'm doing, right?
It did, especially because I was so young and like kind of like ignorant in a sense.
Well, you're young, you're naive, you're
like,
young.
I'm not like, I've never been to the radio station. I don't know this whole world, you know? I don't know like the business side of it. I'm just coming in from the outside. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do exactly what I do in my bedroom. I'm just going to go in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's rules. Like, all that's like new to me. So I'm just coming in to do my set. And yeah, as soon as I started scratching, I just went in and...
Did you have any mistakes?
I probably did. I can't remember exactly like...
Right.
You know, like I might have been like off beat a little bit.
Right.
But, you know.
And now, were you DJing on a laptop back then?
No,
you were actual vinyl?
E-Man was already on Serato.
Right.
I want to say he was on Serato already.
Right. But Serato had just come out. It had just started.
It was kind of like a new thing.
It maybe had been out for a year, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, but I was still on vinyl. So I brought my bag with me, like with a few records, you know?
That's OG though, Fuze.
Yeah.
Like that, it's really cool to know that, because it's not saying that you can't DJ nowadays if you weren't on, because vinyl, it's just, you know, you have to go to Amoeba to get vinyl.
Exactly.
Or you have to order it online. I'm not saying DJs who never DJ before can't get into DJing unless you DJ on vinyl, but it is refreshing to know that somebody who is still as young as you and who got into DJing in 2006, or not 2006, 2000, but got on the air by 2006. So you had literally spent 6 years practicing. And in that 6 years, you taught yourself. You went leaps and bounds. And all the while, Koki being an inspiration. Any other DJs?
Mr. Chalk, obviously, one of my favorite.
But besides people on the radio, any like Qbert, AM, any of those guys?
No, just because, I mean, not that I don't respect them now. Like, they're obviously like big, you know, people that I look up to. Yeah, of course. But at the time, like I said, I started like listening to like bands. You know, I was more into like the whole like,
you were into rock, hip hop.
But then like when I started like discovering the radio, those were the first guys that I really looked up to. The guys on the radio. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So it was like the E-Mans, the Chalks, Reflexes. You know, Koki, Ron. A lot of the guys
DJ
on Power.
Ron is another one, man. Those guys are gnarly, dude. Even Ever's another one.
Yeah, I don't think Ever was on the he was doing like radio in Riverside, I think, at the time.
Yes.
But yeah,
all those guys are just, they're so talented, man.
Yeah,
you know?
Vice, obviously.
Of
Echo,
course.
Yeah,
man. Okay, so you do the slot. You leave that day, go home, and how are you feeling after? Like they call you back. No, I'm sorry. They call you back. Let's fast forward now. They call you back for the finalists at Six Flags. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So now we're at Six Flags.
Yeah. So it's instead of the 6, it was 3 now for the final.
It was 3 finalists, and I remember one of them.
Yeah.
Who I just ran into at Priscilla's. Shout out to DJ Scratchy.
Yeah.
Right. And I hadn't seen this guy in at least 5 or 6 years. But I just saw him the other day, and I was telling him about the podcast. And it didn't even dawn on me until right now, until you said the whole Six Flags. I remember earlier when you said, "Oh yeah," and then there was a finalist. I was like, "Oh," and you went against Scratchy, right?
Yeah.
Who was the other DJ?
Mike Danger.
Mike Danger. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was the 3 of us, and they were both on Serato. I'm still on my records.
Wow.
So I was like,
in a way, they had the advantage.
They did, because I'm like, damn, they're playing some dope edits, some like party breaks and stuff. I'm like, man, I don't have a lot of this stuff. I just kind of have what I have, you know?
Wow.
In my bag.
Please walk us through that day. What is it that you play? Like they're playing party breaks, and back then, a lot of the party break records were really hard to come by. You know, it was, you had to kind of know that DJ or know a DJ who had that copy of that bootleg. and it was a lot of EDM, hip hop. You know what I mean? There was a lot of up tempo, a lot of Fat Man Scoop.
Yeah,
you know,
a lot of that stuff.
And so go ahead.
So they had all of that, and I just kind of had more like just the songs, you know, like
the regular versions,
doubles of songs.
Right.
So I had to really like get creative and like scratch and bring the records back and like do doubles of the records. And I scored the highest. So I'm thinking like, oh man, like I'm going to win this.
You knew it by this point. Inside.
I thought.
But you didn't get cocky. You're not a cocky
No.
guy.
I was just like in my head, I'm like, oh, I think I'm about to win. Like I got the high score. Like I'm about to win. And then like they get on the mic and they're like, you know what? Let's do another round.
Wow.
And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, really? Like, I thought I had one already, but
they're like, we need to fill up more time.
Yeah. So then I had to do another round. And then somehow like they narrowed it down to me and Scratchy for the final round. So then it's me against him and he does his set. He kills it. Right. He murders it. He's super dope.
Yeah.
And then I go on and then like my record starts skipping.
Oh no.
So there was like a moment in the song. It was Rodney O and Joe Cooley, but you don't hear me though.
Oh yeah.
But you don't hear me though. Look who's hanging out with the Falcons. Just because you're on top of a mountain.
So then like the record skips and then you just hear in the background like whoa, like people kind of like
they're gasping.
Like what happened?
Yeah.
And then the record like comes back and then it goes like, but you don't hear me though. It's like it was almost like meant to be. It was like a weird.
But you don't hear me though.
But
it skipped but fell back on beat.
It fell back on beat and it was like silent and then you hear Rodney O say like, but you don't hear me though. So it was like it was just like some like weird like
there was like
wordplay,
a break,
like it was just
a break that like the crowd's like, oh, he messed up.
Yeah.
And then it comes back that almost seems like you did it on purpose.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
But you don't hear me though.
Wow, the DJing gods really had your back that day.
Exactly. It was a crazy moment, but yeah, there was a little bit of drama going back and forth, like who should have won.
Right. There was a little, what is it called? The little controversy on who's the actual winner.
Exactly.
Right. But
So,
ultimately,
they chose me and yeah.
there it is.
I got the
rest is
money
history.
from Guitar Center. It was like a $2,000 gift card from Guitar Center.
And what did you run out and buy from Guitar Center?
They sold laptops at the time, so I bought my first MacBook from Guitar Center.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so now, after you win that, you officially get hired, right? As a mixer?
No.
So what happens?
So the prize was $2,000 from Guitar Center. And what was the other part? It was a 1 hour guest set on Saturday night with Siphon Deluxe.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah. Saturday nights.
The Saturday night street party or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing an hour like a few months later after I had won the contest. Yeah.
And you killed
I was
that.
still on vinyl. Like, yeah.
You were still on vinyl, but you had just
vinyl.
gotten the laptop.
I wasn't comfortable enough with Serato yet, you know?
And it was weird because back then there was only a select amount of websites you can, like record pools, you could download MP3s, like Break the Crates and stuff like that was the first that I knew of.
Yeah, there was one called My 12-inch, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Henry was running that one at the time.
Oh, yeah. And was it Bezo? Remember Bezo?
Oh, yeah.
Bezo was Henry's.
Yeah.
With the little bee wasp thing. He had like a lot of dope shit on there.
Yeah.
He would make a lot of that himself.
Yep.
And then there was also Club Killers, I think, or My 12-inch and all that.
My 12-inch.
My 12-inch always sounded so pervy.
Yeah.
Like My 12-inch, like what the fuck?
Your 12-inch what?
You can't say that anymore.
Nah, not anymore, bro. They get canceled now.
Yeah. Okay, so how long of a break, or since you did the Saturday night thing with Siphon Deluxe, and then you get hired, because it seems like, when did we first do our first jump off mix, you and I?
2008.
So from 2006 to 2008, what goes on in that time frame?
So after I do my 1 hour set with Siphon Deluxe, you know, like my buddy had a birthday party in Santa Ana that same night. So I go back there and I'm with my friends and like I show up and like the whole party kind of like pauses and they go on the mic and shout me out like, oh, Fuze, he's
celebrity.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was funny. That was cool. But then like after that, I kind of slept on it for a little bit, you know? I was like, I kind of got complacent. Like, oh, okay. Like I was on like one time, like I really wanted to get on the radio. I did it. That was cool. But then like after a few months, I'm like, what am I doing, man? Like I met E-Man, I met Chalk, I met Felly, like they all like me. They chose me to win. Like, what am I doing? Like, I got to go out there and like work full time. Like, not full time, but like, I got to be on the radio every week. Like, what am I doing? You know?
Right.
So I started sending in demos to E-Man.
Even though you won already.
Even though I won, but now I wanted to be like one of
power mixer.
I wanted to be a power mixer now, you know?
Right.
So I started sending in demos, and like E-Man would get back to me. He's like, Fuze, like we're not hiring right now. Like you're dope. Like we like you, but there's just no room on the roster right now.
Right. And there was a lot of DJs back then.
There was a lot of DJs. It was like at least like 15.
Yeah,
I'd say. So then like, you know, I kind of got like bummed out, but a few weeks later I made another one, and this time I don't even think he replied to me. But then I started sending them to Felly, you know, and Felly would kind of get back to me a little more. Because I think he was a mixer coordinator at the time.
Yeah.
So then like he'd be like, bro, like you're super dope, but we're just not looking right now. You know? But we'll keep your we'll keep your mix on file or whatever.
Of course.
And then I just kind of like kept turning them in. Sometimes they wouldn't get back to me.
And you stayed persistent. I think
like,
the meaning of what you're saying here is the persistence eventually paid off. And you're not annoying. It's not like you showed up at the station like, hey man, but you would send in the mixes by mail, right? Or would you email them?
I would email them. Yeah, I think I would email them.
And then you wouldn't write like some long email with it. You would just send
I would just send a demo and be like, hey, what up? Like here's like a demo I made
a new demo.
Yeah, and a part of the story that I like kind of forgot about is so around this time too, like DJ Ever hit me up. We were friends on MySpace or whatever.
Oh yeah,
because I would always hit him up. I'm like, dude, you're super dope. He had just kind of started like on the radio over here on Power, doing LA radio. So we'd be friends on like MySpace and stuff. And like, he's like, hey dude, you're dope, man. Like I have a buddy in Riverside, like he does radio out there that's like looking for like a full-time DJ.
On like KGGI?
No, it was like 96 point something. I can't remember, but it was like a, kind of like a 991.
Right.
I think it was called Wild 96.1.
Oh, I remember that.
And Ever used to work at that one.
Yeah.
So they were hiring, and like his boss, his former boss, like heard my demo. He's like, bro, I want to hire you.
Right. And they knew who you were from Power, obviously, from the contest and all that.
And from Ever recommending me and everything. So like they wanted to hire me.
Did Ever go, this he's one gig?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And then it's crazy because I was about to get on, and then like the station flipped format.
Oh,
like out of nowhere. It turned into a reggaeton station.
And you weren't into DJing reggaeton at all?
No, I mean I was, but just like here and there, like whatever, like.
And it wasn't nearly where it is now, right?
No, not at all.
Right.
It was growing, but it wasn't as big as it is now. And they flipped formats. So I'm like, all right, never mind. Like, it's not gonna happen.
What a rug pulled out from underneath your feet, right?
Exactly. And then another opportunity came up with Verman, and E-Man's brother, Mikey Mike. He was running a station in Phoenix. I think it's Power 98.
Yeah.
And same thing. They were looking for a guy to do like an afternoon mix show every day.
Oh man, you would have moved out to what, Phoenix?
They were trying to get me to move, bro.
Whoa.
But at the time, I turned it down. I was like stupid. I was like, I had a girlfriend at the time.
Right. But you wanted to stay in LA too, man.
Yeah, I wanted to stay out here.
And it's hard to move out of LA, bro.
Yeah, they were like, dude, if you come out here, your apartment will be like $500 a month.
Yeah,
like,
it's cheap out there.
Yeah,
Even till this very day. It's just like, dude, I lived in Miami for 6 months. I moved when I was 24, I think. 24 years old. I moved to Miami, and I was physically homesick. I miss the mountains. It's all flat out there. Look, Miami's beautiful. It's great. The women are gorgeous. The weather's wonderful, aside from the massive hurricanes. But those are far and in between. But nonetheless, it's still a part of the country. But dude, when you move to the other side of the country, it feels like you're on another planet.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't wait to, and when I had that opportunity. So I don't blame you for not leaving. But so please continue. So you turned down Phoenix.
I was young, I had a girlfriend. Right. I was in love, I thought I was in love or whatever. And I didn't want to leave my family, I felt like I was still too young to like make that leap.
How old are you at this point? 23 or whatever?
21. I think I was 21.
Oh yeah, you were still
also 21.
Mm-hmm.
So then you know what? Like I turned them down, I'm like, what? I really appreciate it, but I'm gonna stay home, And then after that, I'm like, you know what? They want me in Riverside, they want me in Phoenix. Like, you know what? Let me get out of my comfort zone and really chase this dream in LA, which was Power 106, So I just kept turning in demos. I just like went harder into paint.
How many demos do you think you turned in, Fuze?
Like 7 or 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what, you do once a week, once a month?
Like every like 2 weeks, like every month.
When like the music would update, right? When there would be a new couple of tracks would come out.
Yeah, and like sometimes like I'd get like upset when they didn't get back to me. So then I'd get a little depressed and be like, maybe like I should just kind of like give up,
Yeah, man. Now let me ask you, were you sending in demos based on like now that you had the Serato from the gift card from winning the contest, and you bought the Serato or the laptop, and you bought Serato to go with it, and you're transferring songs and you're doing the whole spiel. Were you sending in demos that you were making off the Serato, or were you still sticking to vinyl?
Yeah, at this point I was already on Serato when I was
merged.
making demos.
You made the move, you merged. And then how long is it till you finally get over to where you want to be to power? Like you finally get on.
Yeah, I'll never forget the exact like moment where I was when I got the email from Felly. I was on the 55 freeway about to get on the 91 freeway.
Oh, that's right, because you lived in Hesperia, right? At the time.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But I was still like driving down to Orange County a lot because a lot of my friends were down there and like a lot of work was down there too.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the 55 going into like the Riverside 91 and I checked my Sidekick and like I get an email, or was it a BlackBerry? I can't remember, but I got an email from Felly and it said, "Hey Fuze, like you ready? Like we got an opportunity for you like during the 12 Days of Mixmas." This was 2007, December of 2007.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'll never forget that moment, you know? I was like,
man.
All that like hard work and persistence like finally paid off, you know? And
the
I knew
12 Days of Mixmas was a big open slot. I remember even me getting on that slot.
That's when you got on too.
Yeah.
That's when you got on.
That was wild. And I just remember they had to fill up a lot of time because a lot of people are off, and it gave them it was the perfect opportunity for mixers to really hone their skills. Like people like myself who wasn't DJing all the time. It's like a comedian going on. It's like performing every single night in a different, you know, even on the same stage, but you perform every single night for 2 weeks straight.
Yep.
That's what 12 Days of Mixmas is kind of like, reminds me of. It's like you really get to go in and just crush it. And so and you go in, and what time did they put you on?
I want to say they put me on like at 2 a.m. Midnight or 2 a.m. So like the like, you know, the
overnight.
Yeah, the overnight. You know, obviously like I'm the new guy, like just kind of coming in. And you were on it. I think Vic was at the time auditioning as well.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of us, like 3 or 4 of us that kind of started at the same time. Yeah, that was that. And I did like 2 shifts. I asked Felly, like, so can I come to the mixer meeting next week? He's like, yeah, of course. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like I'm still not hired. I'm still just like auditioning, like a part of the meeting.
You're still new. Yeah,
I'm still new. And I did that for like a good like 12, 13 months of just pretty much every weekend. Like
you drive down.
Yeah. I was
you
living
drive
in
from Hesperia
like 70 miles.
Burbank. Wow.
70, 75 miles every Friday, Saturday.
In traffic.
No, at this time, not in the beginning, no, because I was on so late. There was no traffic, you know, there was no traffic at midnight.
But I mean, coming to the meetings.
Yeah, coming to the meetings on Wednesdays, yeah.
Man, bro, that's dedication, man.
Yeah.
That is real
but
dedication.
I was just living a dream, you know. I was like, man, I wanted to be on the radio. Like I was going to mixer meetings and like meeting artists and like just in the same room with so many dope DJs. I was like, damn, I'm just living a dream, you know?
Well, now let me fast forward, and I know we have to let you go because we're closing in on our hour here, but I don't want to hold you too long because I know you got to get to the homie to get the speakers loaned out, but I still want to go over the jump off mixes with you.
Yeah.
So eventually you keep going to the persistent mixer meetings. You're persistent in getting there from Hesperia to and fro in traffic, come hell or high water, you stayed on it.
Yeah.
And then I remember seeing you in the mixer meetings eventually. Yeah. And I remember they were like, okay, so Felly's like, we're going to have a jump off thing. Who wants to do it? And I remember going to Vic asking, because I knew him, and he was sitting next to me. He was sitting, I think, to the right of me, and you were on the left.
Yeah.
And I'm like kind of in the middle of the table. And I was all, Vic, do you want to do? And he looked at me, he was like, no. He looked at me and said no in classic Vic form. Not mean. He goes, Sketch, it's a lot of work. He goes, he was like, we have to be up at 3 a.m, dude. And I'm like, because, you know, we were producing, working for Big, and we had to be, and this is when we'd have to be on live at 3 o'clock in the morning to be on the East Coast at 6.
Yeah.
It was wild. And I remember Felly was like, well, you know, and you had to team up with somebody. It wasn't just do it yourself type of thing. Right?
From what I remember that they asked, like, we need like 4 DJs or something like that.
Right.
And I remember like I raised my hand like right away. I was like, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like, I'm raising my hand. Like, you know?
Yeah.
I'm taking on this opportunity.
And I raised my hand, but nobody wanted to work with me. And then you turned to me.
I think they chose like 4 guys, but they didn't choose you.
Yeah.
But then like I had never really like talked to you like that. Like we had met, but we weren't like,
right.
We had never really had conversations, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I remember like, I think I went up to you and I was like, hey, Sketch, you want to team up?
Yeah.
Cause I'm like, cause you didn't get picked, you know, whatever. And then you're like, all right, yeah. But I think you were kind of like iffy, like who's this guy? You know, like he's being too nice or something, you know?
But
you still said like,
of course,
yes, you know?
I just remember you were like, hey, do you want to, I remember your face. You were like, hey, do you want to team up? I was like, sure. I just was like, I was unsure if you were sure about me. I remember feeling like, I wonder if he knows I'm not that great of a DJ like Koki and all these guys. Like I can't cut like that. You know what I mean? I'm more of a producer and a mixer. Yeah. I can blend.
We complemented each other. You know what I mean? Like you were like dope at producing and I was like, I didn't know how to do any of that. Like you introduced me to Pro Tools, like all that stuff. Like to this day, like I still use Pro Tools and it's because like you introduced me to it.
Thank you.
know?
Well, hey man, you showed me a lot too, but let's dive into that part of it real quick before we wrap it up is the fact, and I'm going to pull some clips from some of the jump. I still have a lot of them, but some of them I have to dig for. Yeah. But I want to play a couple of little snippets if I can find them. Do you still have them?
I still have them.
I think you might have to send them to me.
I got you.
I like MP3s is fine. Yeah. But anyway, so we team up. And I remember Ableton wasn't even invented yet.
Yeah.
This is how far back we're going. And I remember vividly your expertise on how to make it work. And you knew, as well as I did, that we had to start on it a month in advance. Yeah. Right? Because it had to be, 30 minutes? Or something like that. Or it had to be broken. It would be a 30-minute. One piece had to be 30 minutes, and then the other one had to be like 5 minutes. Because
something like that.
Right?
Yeah.
So all in all, it was about 35 minutes long. But the way you envisioned it, and I'll never forget, you were like, Sketch, we're going to record it on Pro Tools, on your Pro Tools. You didn't even really know what it was, but you knew that was the platform, the medium we had to record onto in order to mix it. You're like, Sketch, you're obviously going to do the editing, but we have to start. And I remember the first record you used was Rihanna, Please Don't Stop the Music, right? And you played that and you go, I'm going to play it from this is when we didn't have the ability to just go into a prod room and record in our own room. You had to go into the mixer room, live on air mixing room when nobody was mixing.
Like on the Sunday morning.
Yeah. And connect it to Big's prod room. I would connect it through the board and then you would play records and you would play Rihanna. You started with Rihanna, Please Don't, and Daft Punk or something. And you were like, every record has to match that Rihanna record, meaning beat-wise, BPM-wise. Yeah. And we didn't know which keys records were in at that time. Yeah. We just kind of had to guess. There was no mixed-in key yet.
Yeah.
And back then, Pro Tools didn't have offline mixing, meaning when you bounced out a file, like if we did a 20-minute mix, you had to record it real time. And if it froze or glitched, you had to start over again. Yeah, these are the hoops, the flaming Cheeto hoops we had to jump through in order and I remember the first 5 minutes of it, we must have gone through 10 songs.
Oh my God.
I mean, because you were like, look, none of the songs can play longer than a verse or a hook. It has to keep going. Keep going. Like you're just smashing them over the head with hits after hit. And I even remember after our first one, it was wild. I know I still have the first one, but the ones after I have to look for. Anyways, I remember we showed it to Liz Hernandez, right? Luscious Liz at the time. And because we were so progressive in how we produced it, it was like we were jumping leaps and bounds. Not saying the other power mixers weren't good, but they weren't applying the production that we did.
For sure.
Because let's face it, they didn't have that ability the way that I did and the way that you cut. It was like we were kind of cheating in a way. You know what I mean? In a sense, because you're so good. It's like Kobe and Shaq. You know, like you were so good at the cutting and you're still a baby, but nobody could fuck with your cuts, right? And you were like, oh, and then I'm going to cut here. And I remember you're like, okay, we're going to mix. And then Liz comes in after it already aired and everybody's socks were blown off. And Liz is all, I don't like how you mix the song so fast.
Oh, wow.
and like I told her, and I'm getting angry. I was all, Liz, that's the point of the jump off mix. And you, Mr. Fuze, Mr. Calm, was all, okay, we hear you on that, Liz, but could you tell us what you did like about it? And the way you asked her, you changed the whole dynamic instantly from me being frustrated, her getting frustrated at me being frustrated about her answer. And you were like, what did you like about it? And then she was like, well, the Rihanna part and all that part was really, really good. I just want to hear more of it. And I was like, I hear you. And then so we kind of we heeded her word, and we kind of let certain things after that. We let things ride a little bit longer.
Sure.
But man, it's almost like I want to ask you, how did you know to make the jump off like that? Like, how did you already know what kind of structure and formula it needed the pace of it to go? Because you had never done a jump off mix before.
Yeah.
How did you know that?
Just by listening to like the previous jump off mixes, like the classic ones that like Koki would do and Vice and Echo, like even though like I hadn't worked there, like I was already kind of like a student of like whatever like played on the radio, you know? So I already kind of had like an idea of what to do, even though I had no idea how to do it. You know what I mean?
You knew what it needed to sound like. You had the vision.
I knew that, but like that's where you came in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'd have an idea, and then you'd magically go on Pro Tools and be like, okay, I got to do this. I got to chop this and like loop it and do that. I'm like, do your thing, you know? Like I kind of gave you the idea, and then you would like go in there and knock it out. You know?
Yeah, man. We did make a good team, bro.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I missed those days of working with you on mixes, bro, because we eventually got a formula down. Eventually you would do the mixes at home because you bought I remember you bought it. Eventually we got, 5-6 years later, and we got the chance to do another jump off, but it was like, you were like, I'm going to mix it at home because you had an iMac at this point.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm going to bring the entire iMac to your house. And you brought the whole computer and you left it there. And you're like, all right, so I'm going to need the computer back, Sketch, but just copy all this shit, like the whole files, and mix it. Or you were like, mix it in my thing and then copy it to your thing. So like that way, because you were like, I can't render it out. I can't, it would just take too long. But you left the whole computer at my house.
Wow.
And we knocked it out, and it came out wonderful. Yeah. And man, the amount of stuff we've produced together. Yeah. I want to do something again with you, man.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about it for a minute.
And I feel like we should just do it. Like, it doesn't, even though, we both work for Real, I work for Big, you work for a Cruz Show. I wanted to get into that too, man. And we've already run out of time. It's already been an hour. And I want to just punctuate the move from Power over to Real and not even joining the crew, because you didn't join because Leslie was still part of the Cruz Show.
I joined them, but just like more on like a part-time, like weekend basis.
And you would even fill in for Vic on Big Show.
Yeah. I was like I came in as a like utility guy.
Yeah. Which is a hell of a utility guy to have. I mean, this guy, it's like a secret weapon, but then what made you want to leave from Power to come to Real? Did Doc approach you? How did that come into fruition?
Yeah. I was like on at Power for a minute now, I started in 2007. Yeah. This was 2019, so I was going on like 12 years.
Ooh, that's over a decade.
Yeah. So I was like, I felt like I wasn't like necessarily moving up. When E-Man started doing more of the PD stuff, like he asked me to like kind of hold him down in the mornings with a Cruz Show.
Right.
I got like really close to those guys,
I see.
I was already kind of covering him when he was out of town or whatever.
Right.
So they already liked me. But when I started covering him more like on a full-time basis, like I really got close with I was already close with Jay Cruz, but like Jeff, like
totally.
I already knew those guys for years, but like they really like started like fucking with me because they're like, yo, this guy's like, he's all about it. He's all in, Yeah,
and you're dependable, accountable. You show up.
Exactly. So like that was kind of like, okay, like here's my big break here at Power. Like I could be a part of a morning show, like which is like a big deal to me,
Of course.
But then when like they moved out of nowhere, I had no idea they were moving.
Yeah, that was a surprise.
It was a surprise to me,
Yeah.
Until like everyone else. I was like, oh, damn, like the homies are leaving. So,
yeah, they just bounced.
So then I'm like, all right, I guess I'm still doing this. And then
so what did you end up doing after Cruz bounced?
I still kept doing it.
Right.
While they were trying to figure out like what their new morning shows.
And the Cannon came around and all that.
I kind of was there for that a little bit in the beginning before it was like a fish show. But then like when they brought on Charisma, I was like, you know what? Like, I think it's time to like move on. And no diss to her.
And Charisma was here. She was music director at one point.
She was here, yeah.
And then she went back.
She went back when they announced that like they were bringing her on. I was like, you know what? I think it's time to move on. Like because I felt like I kind of like deserved that slot because I was like I had paid my dues for many years in that building. For sure. So no diss to her. Like
no, of course not.
She's a homie.
No,
she totally deserves it.
She's a homie, man. I love Charisma. Yeah. She's great. But at the same time, we have to point out that in that time too, there was a lot of the Me Too thing was popping off. You know what I mean? It was really at its height, and I feel like, not saying that Charisma was me tooing people at all. It was more of, I feel like the climate of the political correctness to put Charisma in that slot was the right move. Like politically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And because they know her and it's just, there was a lot of politics inside and outside of radio and personal things for her that I know.
I totally understood it. You know, even though like I really wanted it and I felt like I deserved it. Yeah. Like I totally understood why they chose her.
But you also had an inkling to want to move on.
Yeah. So like when that happened, I was like, you know what? Like I really wanted it. It wasn't for me. All good. But I didn't want to go back to the weekends.
Right. Of course.
I don't want to go back to my old Saturday slot and go back to that. I'm like I'm kind of over that, you know?
So then what is it that sets it into motion?
So
how do you get over here?
Before that, Jeff G had kind of contacted me. He's like, hey bro, like we're working on some stuff. Like we kind of want to like bring you on over here. Like we'll talk, you know, but it never really led to anything. So then, that was that. So that was kind of like on my radar. Like, okay, like they're kind of interested, but
then you're on their radar.
Yeah. And then I knew Leslie kind of got on with them. So I'm like, okay, like it didn't work out, you know?
Right. Which was another thing too, with Leslie being on the morning show. I'm sorry, being on the Cruz Show because of the fact she's a female.
Yeah.
She's lesbian. And she talked about that on this podcast. She was very open about that. And so shout out to Leslie for being so transparent in that sense. But I felt like, again, the temperature, putting a female DJ in that slot was the right move.
It made sense.
It made sense. Just like with Korea, it's not just because they're female, but it's the right move in general. You know what I mean? And with you, it was like this, like, how do I explain it? It was almost like they were setting a blueprint for you to get over here. And you didn't know, they didn't know as well as you didn't know to put you on once Leslie, and nobody knew Leslie was going to leave either. But she had spent so much time. She had never worked in radio, just like you. This was her first gig. And she got on. And, you know, it's hard. LA radio is hard fucking work, dude. Yeah, bro. It's hard. No matter what time, what position you have, whether you're answering the phones.
It's a grind.
It's a grind. It doesn't matter what you do and what department you work in. If you work in LA radio, LA market radio, you are grinding like you've never grinded, especially at iHeart. And that's a good thing. They put you to work, man. They really put you to work.
You really earn your paycheck.
Yeah, and you got to really do it. So you get over here. Now, let's just quickly go back again to you have this. Okay, I got to move on.
So I talked to Jeff. Yeah.
Jeff is on. He put you on the radar. Then how do you get in contact with Doc and all that? When does that happen?
So what happened is so they made Nick Cannon official.
Yeah.
So then I get a text from Jeff. He's like, "Hey Fuze, how's it going, man?" He's like, "Are you gonna be a part of the morning show over there?" And I'm like, "Nah, it doesn't look like it. Like, I don't think so." He's like, "Oh, okay." He called me like 2 minutes later. He's like, "Hey, what happened, man?" I'm like, I think they're gonna choose Charisma, like this and that. He's like, "Oh, that sucks. You really deserve it, you know?" Right. But he's like, "But you know what? My boss has been asking for your number, Doc." I'm like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, like, dude, we've been talking about you for a minute over here. Like, you know, let's set up a meeting with him." So yeah, like literally a week later, Doc meets with me. I'm still technically an employee at Power.
Yeah, I remember when I saw you in the hallway here.
Yeah,
and you walked in.
Yeah, he brought me over for a tour, and I'm like so nervous because I'm like, there's definitely people that work there that know people from Power.
Totally.
So I'm like, what if they like somehow like.
Right. It's like you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like,
but you're not you weren't under any kind of contract.
No contract.
But it does feel like you're side busting.
Exactly.
I hear you.
I'm like, and it's just down the street too. I'm like, oh, this is awkward. And then like he takes me into the studio with like the Cruz Show and Leslie, and he's like, "Hey guys, you guys know Fuze, right?" And they're like, "Oh, what up, Fuze?" Oh, you know, like everyone's so nice. Like they're giving me a tour of the building or whatever. And then Leslie's like, "When do you start?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I'm just here for it. I don't even know."
You're like, I gotta go do my shift at Power.
I'm on air on Power this week. I don't know. But yeah, so that happens, and then I don't really hear from Doc for like 2 weeks. So I'm like, like what's going on? You know, like he kind of made me an offer, but then like I don't hear from him. So I'm like, I don't know if it's gonna end up happening or not.
You're hanging in suspense.
So then like I'm still at Power, and they're like asking me, "Can you do this and can you do that? Can you do this shift?" And at this point, I'm like, my heart's not even like in it no more.
Right. I was going to ask you about that.
I might move on.
Right.
So I started like turning like
shifts down.
Shifts and like different events, like in concerts down. I'm like, I don't want to like go, and then like the next day I quit, you know? So I
Right.
kind of just like,
Or
no.
go, and then you get the call from Doc.
Exactly.
Right.
So like, I just started like distancing myself from like certain like things over there. And then like,
And
Yeah.
then the call comes in 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, and he calls you, or
he
what
calls me-
happens?
he calls me up and he's like, all right, like, let's get this going. Come and sign some paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bring your, you know, all your documents and stuff. And yeah, it all started.
And they hired you on the spot. Boom.
pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
And then
It
you
was a
put in your-
process though. You know, it
Did
was
you
a
put in
process.
your 2 weeks, or did you just outright quit Power?
I did put in my 2 weeks. Yeah.
And did they ask? Was E-Man like, "What's up, man?"
Yeah.
And
got a
did you
call
tell him
and
going to
I had to
iHeart?
I had to like break it down to him. He's like, why? Like, I was like, man, it was so awkward, bro. But I was just so thankful. I'm like, E-Man, like, even though like I'm not happy in the moment, like with you guys, like I'm still so grateful.
Of
you know what
course.
I mean? Like
Of
that
course.
was my start. It's such
As
a big
am
part
I,
of
man.
my career. Like that's where I started. Like
I always refer to my days at 106 as my college years.
Yeah.
And even though I spent I was like held back at college quite a few times. You know what I mean? Like, and I was the most rehired and fired employee at Power for out of everybody who's ever worked there.
hey, but
in
it says a
history.
lot that they rehired you.
I know. It's like
You know
that.
what
What
I
is
mean?
it? That Godfather in the Godfather. It's like right when I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So and it was like that. But I felt like the universe. It kept putting me and Big together.
Yeah.
And because, like I said, I moved to Miami. I worked at 100.3 The Beat. All the while, I was still producing stuff for Big, like on the DL. Like Jason and Big would hit me up for certain things, and it was right before they were about to go national, and I would do stuff. And I honestly didn't care. I was working for Clear Channel, and I was like, dude, Big is family. I he gave me my start, but I'm still going to do stuff for him. And I even remember being at The Beat here in LA at 100.3, and they were about to go national, and Big was like, "We need some intros and some sweep," and I produced them when I was there.
There he is.
In the headphones. Oh my god,
Like
bro.
all like low key,
Bro. Straight. It was sneaky style, bro. And then eventually, they flipped formats, and I went back to Power, and I was so grateful to. I essentially got laid off because they eliminated the position at 100.3 when they flipped formats. Right? They went to adult urban AC, and I remember that day I called Big, and I was like, "Well, your boy's a free agent." And he was like, "Oh, great. It's about time. Be at the station tomorrow at 6 a.m. Wow. And I was like, the very next day, I was already back at Power. Wow. And I was like, dude, if I didn't have that guy in my life, I would have been fucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it would have been...
He saved your life a bunch of times.
More than once. I mean, it was wild. You saved my life more than once. You know, and it's and back then it was a lot of drunky-o-matic and party-o-matic. I mean, I was out of my mind. And all the while, though, you guys were constants in my life, you know? And even though I was out of my mind and I was partying all the time, we still got our shit done.
Yeah, we still managed to get it done.
Yeah,
you know?
and you tolerated my insaneness, which I really appreciate.
No, I did because like I was learning a lot from you.
Yeah.
And you probably didn't notice it in the moment, but like I was fucking taking a lot of notes. Like I was like, okay, how'd you do that? How'd you do this? You know?
And I'd show you.
Yeah. So like I wasn't like you were partying, but I was kind of partying with you too sometimes. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was just kind of like there in the corner.
I just look back and I'm like, man, I wish I could have just not done any of that. I feel like
part of your journey.
It was part of my journey. You're right. It was. And but now it's like, I'm so glad because I'm almost about to be 45 coming up in January. And I feel like, God, I even say this to Big and he goes, please don't say that. Don't say what I think you're going to say. And what am I going to say? That you wish you can go back and tell yourself what you know now. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I wish I knew then what I know now.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking through the same set of eyes, crystal HD 4K clear, you know? And back then, I don't know, man. It's just wild. And you never were. And, you drink every now and again. If you're going to say a drug of choice, alcohol, you're a tequila guy. You drink a Modelo every now and again, but you're not an alcoholic like I was. You know what I mean? I was when I'd finished the bottle of beer, I would eat the glass. I mean, it was out of control, man. You know what I mean? But anyways, look, Fuze, we've gone on so long, and I can talk to you for so much longer. But I do want to sum up and recap. Let's review what we've talked about, right? So 2000 to 2007, you honed your skills, right? And then we fast forward, you win the contest, you get a slot, you do the 12 days of Mixmas, you spend 12 years at 106, and then you get over to, that's what we left off. I wanted to sum up on that. You take the meeting with Doc, and then you put in your 2 weeks, and then you're here at iHeart. Leslie leaves, and then, please,
Yeah. So Leslie leaves, and then like it was just kind of meant to be that I slide into that spot, and then because like I said, like the Cruz Show, like the guys really like fuck with me, like
man.
for years.
It's family.
We're family. You know what I mean? So like I would cover her all the time, whenever she was out of town or whatever. So it was like I was like an unofficial member of the show in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So when she announced she was leaving, it was just kind of like a no-brainer for me to step in.
Yeah.
But obviously, like, I'm not a female. I'm not hot like Leslie, so it's like...
I hear you, but you're hot on them turntables, bro. You know what I mean? And, and you got a very beautiful wife. So you're obviously hot to somebody, and she's married to you. So
so then I had to I had to do my thing, but they still had to figure out like a female role for the show, obviously, because...
Oh, yeah. And then they brought in Jackie.
Yeah.
Who reminds me of like a young J-Lo.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's not like she looks exactly like J-Lo, but there's like a J-Lo vibe going on there. I can't pinpoint it.
There's something.
You're right. It's almost,
yeah.
I told Jeff and Cruz this. I was like, and I told this to Jackie. I was like, it's almost like you're related to her. Like she's your aunt or something. You know what I mean? Like the DNA is like very similar.
Yeah.
Anyways, but shout out to Jackie Ramirez for stepping in, and shout out to you, Fuze, for doing this podcast and for taking over the slot on the Cruz Show and for holding it down for LA and for being my friend for so long. And I'm so happy that we do work alongside each other at iHeart now. I was very excited when I heard you. When I saw you in the hallway that day, I knew it was going down. I was like, oh shit, like, he's coming through. And you're here now. And man, I love you, Fuze. You're a great guy, man.
Likewise, brother.
Yeah, and I hope to God we can do another jump off mix at some point together.
It's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Even if it's just for us. It doesn't have
even
to
if
be,
it's just like 5 minutes or something.
Yeah, but let's go ham
little mega
on
mix.
it.
Yeah.
Let's go crazy on. Like it's almost like we could do like a TikTok mix.
Ooh,
you know what I mean? Because everybody's attention span is very short now. So if we could do a jump off mix in 3 minutes and just go crazy, dude.
Holla.
Are you on TikTok too, by the way?
I am, but I hardly ever go on.
Bro, TikTok is dope, man. I was kind of not on TikTok for years, but the app, bro, the amount of crazy editing you can do on that thing is fantastic. To me, it kind of makes Instagram look a little old, bro.
Holla.
Because TikTok is...
My wife is on TikTok all the time. She never posts, but she's always watching it like before bed.
Right.
And she's always telling me like, you gotta like post more on TikTok.
Yes,
that's where it's at.
You
that's
do.
Where
You know
it's
what?
at.
Heed her word. And
I do have one, but I've only posted like 2 videos.
I'm gonna follow you. Follow me. And I want you to, the next time you start mixing, you do your from the house, on the turntables or even here, I want you to record it, and I'll show you just a couple of moves. Like you can put it on, like you can edit that video on TikTok first, right?
Pull up.
Don't even put it out on TikTok. You could put it out, but save it and then use that TikTok edited video with all the transitions and the cool little things that you can visually do to it, and then post that to your Instagram. That way it's like a finished product.
Word.
Because you can't do that on Instagram. You can't edit it with all the cool transit. Like, you've seen my stuff, right? Where I'm like, I do all these cool like TV turns on effects, and then the transition when it changes scenes and the time lapse.
I need a course on that,
bro. It's so easy. It's so dumb and easy. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I want to show you. But again, thank you so much, Fuze, for being on the Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast. Sir. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
And shout out to your friend who's about to get this dope speaker lent to him for this wedding. You know what I'm saying?
Shout out to Young Dean.
There it is, Young Dean.
Holla.
The Sketch-O-Matic Show podcast appreciates you, DJ motherfucking Fuze.
Hey.
DJ Fuze.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
The Sketch-O-Matic Show.
Too much information and shit, man.
Shut your mouth, essay.
Okay, bye.